Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we've gone through all the notes, the old race calls, and we are taking you back. Back to the very beginning of modern Japanese racing, really. We're telling the story of Bamboo Memory. He's kind of a forgotten champion, but one who really earned the title of Japan's unsung sprint king.
Right, and when you think about Japanese sprinters now, your mind probably jumps to these modern titans, horses like Lord Kanaloa, the ones who went and conquered the world.
Exactly. But before all of them, there was a foundation. There was this warrior who kind of paved the way for all that.
And that's our mission today. We want to really get into the story of this one horse. He was not bred for greatness. He was an underrated warrior. His pedigree was pretty modest, and he had a pretty significant physical flaw. We need to understand how a horse who started with basically every disadvantage fought his way up to not just win a G1, but to become Japan's first ever G1 sprint champion.
And that's the hook, isn't it? That's what makes this story so good. Bamboo Memory was not a blue blood. He was not some prodigy. His whole background suggested a pretty quiet career, but once he found what he was meant to do, he was just. He was fast, stubborn, and completely impossible to ignore. So let's start at the beginning. The humble origin. He was born in 1985, a pure homebred from the small family-run bamboo stable.
Right, and his sire was an American stallion, Morning Frolic. His kids were fine. They were respectable, but they weren't setting the world on fire. This was a total internal project. No big farms, no powerful owners behind him.
And on top of that modest breeding, he had this really serious physical issue.
Okay, yeah, this is central to his whole story. He had a notoriously weak set of hooves. And in horse racing, especially sprinting, where the force is just immense, soundness is everything. Fragile feet on a speed horse. It's a massive liability.
Wait, hold on. If he had weak hooves, that sounds like a death sentence for a racehorse, especially a fast one. How did they even manage him? Did they have to change his training or something?
Absolutely. They had to be so careful with him. And that decision dictated his entire early career. To protect those feet, those joints, they kept him almost exclusively on dirt tracks.
Okay, because dirt is softer, less punishing than turf.
Exactly. And it worked for a bit. He won his third start. He was climbing the ranks. But then he just stalled. He hit what's called the 3-win class in Japan. And for anyone who doesn't follow the system, it's basically a classification hurdle. If you can't get past it, your career plateaus. And for months, he was just stuck there. He'd hit a wall.
So for this small stable, that must have felt like, well, this is it. The modest career we expected is here. But the sources, they frame it differently. This wasn't a failure. It was more like he was charging up before the explosion.
A very big explosion.
Okay, let's unpack that, because in his 4-year-old spring, everything changed. His team took this huge risk. They made this pretty shocking decision. They switched him from the forgiving dirt tracks to the hard, demanding turf.
And the result was immediate.
It was, wasn't it? In the Dotonbori Stakes, a turf mile. He didn't just win, he destroyed them. A completely dominant performance. It was the kind of race that makes everyone stop and ask, where have this horse been hiding?
And the thing that stands out is just the audacity of what they did next. He proved the switch was a great idea. Then he ran a strong third in another good mile race. But then his stable did something that borders on reckless. Just 1 week later, they entered him into the Yasuda Kinen, a major G1.
1 week. Running a horse on 7 days rest into a G1. Especially a horse, has fragile feet after a surface switch. That sounds like a crazy gamble. Were people criticizing them for pushing him too hard?
You'd think so, but it just shows you the confidence they suddenly had. They saw an opportunity and they grabbed it. And of course, nobody was paying attention to him. He was the 10th favorite in the field, barely on the radar. But he didn't care about the odds.
No, he didn't.
He just unleashed this incredible turn of foot down the long Tokyo stretch and scored this massive upset, his first ever G1 victory.
So in the span of a week, he goes from being a struggling dirt horse to a G1 mile champion.
The whole story just got rewritten right there.
Exactly. The forgotten dirt runner with the humble pedigree was now, suddenly, the mile star of Japan. But, winning that G1, as huge as it was really just the prequel. The next chapter is what made him a legend.
Yes.
The showdown. The showdown. Later that autumn, he wins the G2 Swan Stakes, and that sets the stage for the mile championship. And this was not just another race. This was a head-to-head clash with the national idol, the legend himself, Aguri Cap.
And you can't overstate the drama here. Oguri Cap was already a giant in the sport. He was carrying the hopes of a nation. Bamboo Memory was the upstart, the challenger nobody saw coming. It was billed as a clash of two titans. The atmosphere was just electric.
And the race itself was unbelievable. I mean, Oguri Cap makes his move, but Bamboo Memory is already ahead of him. As they're flying down the home straight, Bamboo Memory actually passes the legend, forcing Oguri Cap and his jockey, Yutaka Take, into this desperate career-defining fight.
And that tactical moment is so critical. Yutaka Take, the jockey on Oguri Cap, he has a choice. He could try to cut Bamboo Memory off, interfere a bit, or he could try to beat him straight up. And Take famously chose honor. He just said, I'll beat him head on.
Wow.
And Oguri Cap had to use every single ounce of that famous closing speed he had. He caught Bamboo Memory right on the wire.
Photo finish.
The photo finish. They called it no margin, no time difference. Oguri Cap got the win, but what that race did for Bamboo Memory's reputation was enormous.
Right, because you don't push a legend unless you're a legend too. When a national hero has to run one of the best races of his life just to catch you by nothing, you've proven you belong.
That race is always on the list of Oguri Cap's greatest performances, and Bamboo Memory is the reason why.
So after that peak, he hits a bit of a decline at age 5, which that's pretty normal after a tough campaign like that. But what he did next just showed his versatility.
It really did. He came back to a race called the Takamatsu no Miya High. Now, at the time, that race was run at 2,000 meters, a middle distance.
Wait. A sprinter miler winning at 2,000 meters, that's like asking a 100-meter dash champion to go out and win the 400.
Yeah.
How did he find the stamina for that?
It was pure heart, just his will to run, and he won it. He proved that his determination, his conditioning, it could overcome what people thought were his distance limits. He wasn't just a speed horse anymore, he was a warrior.
Then in 1990, when he's 6, he has this great revival. He runs 3rd in the Tennisho Autumn, another long race, and then finishes 2nd again in the Mile Championship. He was sharp, focused, and ready for his real date with history.
And that date came because of all things, a bureaucratic change.
Right. In 1990, the Sprinter Stakes, which is the big championship race for speed horses, it was officially upgraded to a G1 for the very first time.
Exactly. This wasn't just another race. This was a coronation. The JRA was creating a new standard. Who was going to be the first champion? Who would set the bar for everyone else?
And it was him.
It was him. Bamboo Memory, the horse with the weak hooves and the humble beginnings. He ran like he was fulfilling a destiny. He blazed to victory, and he set a new Japanese record time. He didn't just win. He became Japan's first official G1 sprint champion, the founding king of the division.
It's just the perfect end to that part of his career. He did race one more season at age 6, still fighting hard against the next generation of stars like Daiichi and Case Miracle. He retired after a career that was just fierce and full. When you look back at him, you see this composite champion. He had the grit of a dirt fighter, the explosive speed of a turf sprinter, the heart of a middle-distance warrior, and of course, the courage he showed against Oguri Cap. He took every disadvantage and turned it into fuel.
Yeah, his whole story is about defying what was expected of him. The horse with the physical flaw who becomes a G1 winner, the dirt runner who becomes a turf star, the challenger who almost beat the icon only to come back and become the first king of an entire division. Yeah. He literally carved out his place in history through sheer will.
Just incredible.
So here's a final thought for you to mull over. Considering his fragile start, that major physical issue with his hooves, Bamboo Memory lived to be 29 years old. He passed away in peaceful retirement in 2014. What does that incredible longevity, especially after such a hard career, suggest about the power of heart and proper management? Maybe that fighter spirit, maybe sustained him long after he left the racetrack.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more.